Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading week has been decidedly mixed. I had a great reading weekend and a more disappointing reading work week. So, over the weekend, I read Young Queens, Three Renaissance Women and the Price of Power by Leah Redmond Chang. This is I wouldn't quite call it a group biography, but in some ways it is a group biography of Katheryn de' Medici, her eldest daughter Elizabeth de Valois, and Mary, Queen of Scots. So the book looks at these three women related through family and marriage, um, and what queenship was like in the mid and late 16th century. So Katheryn de' Medici was the last of the senior branch of the Medici family, a powerful family that ruled Florence for centuries. And she was betrothed by her uncle, Pope Clement VIII, to the second son of the King of France, the future Henry II. And eventually, once Henry became king, she became queen consort and later queen mother. Her daughter Elizabeth was married and eventually she became queen of Spain as the third wife of Philip II, and Mary, Queen of Scots, was briefly the queen consort of France as the wife of Francis II. So Redmond Chang looks at how these three women navigated their roles as queen, whether it's as a consort, as a dowager mother, and as a queen regnant, a queen in her own right, and how each of these three women sort of navigated their roles and how they either succeeded or failed in those roles, and also what the roles of the queen was. There's one part where Redmond Chang points out that in many of these cases, the daughters take sort of a counter journey that their mothers did. Katheryn de' Medici, her mother, was a Bourbon, and so she came from France to marry Katheryn's father, and then later Katheryn went to sort of made the full circle journey to France to marry Henri. And of course, Mary Stuart, her mother, Marie de Guise, was a French noblewoman who married the King of Scotland, and her daughter was set to be married to the Dauphin, the future King of France. So those sort of cyclical journeys. And the book looks at each individual woman, Katheryn, Elizabeth, and Mary, and how they sort of navigated and sort of exuded power and influence and all of that. And it's really fascinating. I love this book. It was amazing. Particularly some really interesting scenes. There's several with Elizabeth de Valois. There's the absolutely tragic end of Mary's reign in Scotland, which is just she was incredible. Mary, Queen of Scots, was incredibly tragic, and just this was a blast to read. I really enjoyed it so much. My only critique of the book is that there's a fourth queen that really could have used, I don't know necessarily if more focus, but certainly more attention. And that is Elizabeth I, or as the book refers to her, Elizabeth Tudor, since one of the three queens focused on is herself and Elizabeth. because in a way, Elizabeth the First sort of kind of complements and contrasts Catherine de' Medici and certainly Mary, Queen of Scots, as both Elizabeth the First and Queen Mary um, sort of have or had very different trajectories as a queen regnant. Um, Elizabeth was far more interested and far more determined to maintain her own authority. Perhaps one of the reasons why she never married was because she did not want to cede her authority to a husband, as Mary clearly wanted to do. Mary was raised by her French kinsmen, the Guise family, and they basically raised her to be Queen of France, to be Francis II's queen. And that made it difficult for Mary to be a queen in her own right. The book makes clear that Mary wanted to be a consort, that she was more comfortable as a consort than as a queen in her own right. And she really struggled with being a queen in her own right. And that's the tragedy of it. But this book was fantastic. I loved it. Um, highly recommend it. So over the course of the work week, Monday through Thursday, my reading was disappointing. I had goes at two poetry collections that I have previously read, which is one thing about my poetry collections. I have pretty much read them all at least once, most of them several times already. So I had goes at I thought there would be more vols by Sara Ryan, and Time and Materials by Robert Hass. And I think both of these I'm going to unhaul at the next unhauling. I'll send them both off somewhere else. And I also read 3 volumes of The 7 Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki. Volumes 29, 30, and 31. So again, The 7 Deadly Sins is a manga series inspired by the Arthurian legends, and it's set in Britannia, which is a land populated by at least 2 kingdoms, Lyonesse and Camelot. And initially, the story is about a young princess named Elizabeth, whose father, the king of Lyonesse, has been overthrown by the Holy Knights, an order of superhuman knights who have instituted a tyrannical regime with the overthrow of King Batra. Elizabeth goes in search of the 7 Deadly Sins, another order of superhuman knights who 10 years previously had been accused of assassinating the leader of the Holy Knights and attempting to overthrow King Batra. So Elizabeth finds Meliodas, the former leader of the 7 Deadly Sins, and together they go recruit the other 6 to overthrow the Holy Knights and restore Batra to his throne. They successfully do that. However, the 2 leaders of the Holy Knights, Hendrickson and Dreyfus, are revealed to be individually seeking the return of the demon race. 3,000 years previously, there was a holy war in which the goddess clan, the humans, fairies, and giants allied against the demons. Hendrickson has been basically brainwashed into wanting to break the seal, and Dreyfus has been possessed by a demon. And this releases the 10 Commandments, the 10 generals of the Demon King. And so they go about trying to break the seal to release the rest of the demons. it's revealed that Meliodas is the elder of the two sons of the Demon King, and that 3,000 years ago he fell in love with a goddess named Elizabeth. And the two rebelled against their parents. In revenge, the parents cursed their children. Meliodas is cursed with resurrective immortality, and Elizabeth with reincarnation. That once she remembers her reincarnations and regains her powers as a goddess, she dies in 3 days. So, by the point of this volume, and the 2 other volumes I read this week, Meliodas has come to the decision that the only way to break Elizabeth's curse is to usurp his father as the king of the demons. And so he defects to the 10 Commandments, or what's left of them, while Elizabeth takes command of the 7 deadly sins, and together joins forces with Camelot, Leonis, and the returning archangels, the incredibly strong members of the goddess race who have begun to possess individuals. So, and then this is going to set up for the next big fight. So, I am, I don't know why I had volume 30 when I should have had 29. So, I don't quite know what I make of these 3 volumes. Of course, given the fact that there are 10 volumes left, and those 10 volumes are going to take over the course of about 3 days in story but I don't know, I'm not really all that fond of, I guess I'm not quite all that enthusiastic about where the story's going from here. It's a bit of maybe a doldrums. I experienced that in the late teens also, that I thought those volumes were a bit disappointing before it picked up again. So that one thing I did like was the oh, that's a really nice one. That basically for a while, one of the Holy Knights, Guilt Thunder, was kidnapped by the sorceress Vivian, and he's eventually freed from her in one of these volumes, and it's hilarious how quickly she's taken down. But yeah. So yeah. So that was the 7 Deadly Sins. I mean, I've got 10 volumes left, so I probably will go ahead and pick them up and read them off. Although I'm not entirely sure what I will do once I finish off the series, because I do want to finish off the series. But anyway, so that brings me to today and the forthcoming reading week. So, I think today and over the weekend I will read Femina by Janina Ramirez. So this is a medieval history that focuses on women, particularly the women who have been written out. So it's longlisted for the 2023 Kundal Prize, and I will report back next week what I make of it. I'm also thinking of reading Ancient Africa by Christopher Ehret. So this is a history of Africa from from prehistory to 300 CE or C or AD, whichever form of the BC, AD, BCE, CE you wish to use, even though they're basically the same. I'm also thinking about doing or participating in some booktube events that are taking place in September, although I don't know exactly which ones. Because on Monday I was going to do like a whole video on Shorty September, and as of making that video, I decided I wasn't all that enthusiastic about what I had on slate. So yeah, I tossed that video and decided that I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do for September, whether I wanted to participate in the events or just go my own way. And I'm still not entirely certain, but I do want to participate at least somewhat in Sumerian September and Space Opera September. So I'm hoping I'll be able to read the Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. I'm going to start with this one, The Coming of Conan. And for Space Opera September, I'm hoping to read the Space Opera Renaissance, edited by David G. Hartwell and Katheryn Cramer. But I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it or how I'm going to make the time. I mean, one option is like I could do Femina over the weekend and then maybe Ancient Africa, I don't know, but over the course of the work week I could do like Conan and Space Opera Renaissance, and then sort of on the weekend get to one of the big new history releases that I really want to get to. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do. Hopefully I will make a decision over the week, and I'll report back on next Friday. What else is there? So next week, except for tag videos, I don't know what I want to do. Although I think from here on out, I might do book hauls as they come in, rather than waiting to collect the big monthly haul, so that I can talk a bit more about the books and why I wanted to pick them up, rather than just what I have been doing, since I kind of wanted to keep those videos down, but since they're so large, it makes it difficult. I'm also thinking about doing a writing video. Steve Donahue did one yesterday about, I'm assuming, an extension of the preparation time for NaNoWriMo called Preptember. That I don't know if I want to make a response video to that or just talk about my writing in general. I don't know. I'll need to think about that. I was thinking about doing that after this video, but I'm still getting a bit long, so I might go do something else. Anyway, so until I see you next week, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and weekend, and until I see you on Monday, stay safe.